Boom, there we go. And go back here. So again, we will share this one more time. And for future socials, you could find all the info at thedomainsocial.com, or to get in the mailing list, which is the most important thing, to get the email invites for Zoom, it's info@thedomainsocial.com. So email me there. But I have just set up MailChimp for thedomainsocial.com, so you can sign up there as well. It'll be automated. Hopefully you'll get the email. On Twitter, Domain Social, Facebook, and LinkedIn as well. We have that as well. So the agenda is whatever. Start at 4 o'clock. We talk about incoming offers, recent sales, industry news, trends, Q&A, reviews. I've moved the auction back 15 minutes because I know we're going to go over that anyways. So at 4:45, we'll do the auction if we have enough people. And then we'll go back to more of whatever. At around 6, we have the after party where more off-topic stuff is permitted. So on that note, hey everyone, how's everyone doing?
Doing great.
Yeah.
Happy Friday, everybody.
Yeah. Happy Friday here.
Yeah.
Friday, Monday, Sunday. What's the difference, right? We're all
Jason,
another day, another domain.
Jason, what's the new outbound story, man? We want to hear the mail you've been getting.
They're
That's always
cooked up in a
juicy
house.
part.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's too much. I'm Braden. I appreciate your advice, and I've been listening to about this Audible book on TED Talks. I'm trying to this talk could be like a month-long talk.
Yeah.
So I need to be one takeaway, one issue, and it's still going to be too long. And I'm just trying to narrow it down, and give everyone enough advice in that one talk.
For those of you who are asking what the advice was, it was narrow the topic, just pick one thing and talk about that.
Yeah.
All right.
So just wait and see.
Yeah. So this week, I really wanted to focus on people who have not participated as much in the past. And on that, I had a question. Just want to know who here has actually sold a domain in 2020? I know some of you have sold many, but I want to talk to people who have not sold any. But here, I'll hold up. Here we go. So here's a little poll. So it's basically I've divided people who have less than 50 domains and more than 50 domains. So most people tend to have more than 50 and have sold a domain.
Oh, that's your puppy. You're not to touch it.
Frank, I think your mic is on.
The last one says I don't try to sell my precious domains. My precious is domains.
My precious is.
I don't sell them.
Coveted.
The last one will always be if you don't know what to answer, that's the. I don't like having polls without an alternative where it'll skew the results if you put something else.
You don't like
Great tip for outbound too.
Yeah, you shouldn't have a poll where there's something drastically misspelled.
Oh, the preciouses?
And domains is this.
Yeah, domains is. Yeah, but it's column.
It's in sync.
He's just checking to make sure we're
It's
reading
all
it.
good.
That's
We're
what it
not
is.
in class, for Christ's sake.
All right, so, okay.
Hey, it looked fine to me.
So, okay, so.
Right, that's true for Paige. That's actually.
Paige just bought both those domains.
So there's 6 people here who have more than 50 domains and have not made a sale in 2020 yet.
Sorry, 5. I put mine myself in, but actually I now checked. I sold 2.
Oh, okay.
So 5.
Any of those 5 people want to just speak up and see what we maybe could help you out with some suggestions on how to change things, or advice on what to do going forward. Any of you 5 people?
You don't know till you know.
Who here has not sold? Here, I'll turn off the. Here we go. Turn that off. Who here hasn't sold a domain in 2020 and wants to talk about it? Is that you, Ron?
Yeah.
Yeah. So speak up. So,
Is this for only the 50s are over?
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I just I just want people who have not talked before to
depressing talk
participate, and
about
I
it.
want this to be more for everybody. So, we talk about people selling all kinds of, 4-figure, 5-figure, 6-figure domains. But I mean, some people make a living selling domains at 3 figures, or, some people are trying to get to that level. And so I just want to bring that up. So, Ron, is there anything you wanted to ask people who've made sales, like what to do, or?
Well, no. Simple answer is no. I mean, I haven't sold anything because I haven't tried. But the reason I'm here is because I want to try. So I'm picking up some tips and techniques, but it's tough because I only have probably about less than 10 domains that I think anybody would want to buy. So it really isn't like I'm actively engaged. It's just that I am actually looking at going to work with a domain industry company here soon, and I'll actually be involved in selling domains, but not my own, but for them. But so that's kind of my story. I mean, it's really a case of wanting to inch my way back into the space and be back in contact with and listening to people who've been actively working in this space and selling names and buying names, etc. But I really didn't necessarily, or not necessarily interested in trying to use this moment right now to pick up any tips or techniques. Not that I wouldn't be able to, but that really wasn't why I joined the call. But
Okay.
Ron, there's a lot of newbies on this call, people that are new to the industry that are unfamiliar with who you are.
Okay.
And I think you should provide a little background.
Okay.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but
No, that's fine.
you're not new to this space, my friend.
No, yeah, no. Right. So I got into the domain space back in 2000, and I joined with Lawrence Ng and Fred Hsu, who created Oversee.net, and I launched DomainSponsor.com. That was my project within the company, and we were a parking program, one of the early ones, and we've figured out some behavioral algorithms and did some things and grew the business pretty big. We had Jonathan actually was joined the team for an extended period of time, was my right-hand guy, but we had 200 plus employees who were throwing off about 40-50 million a year in EBITDA. At our peak, we were pretty good, valued at 1.6 billion. It got to be a pretty big company. We didn't launch anything from a consumer point of view or from a business point of view that had a brand that anybody cared about, but investors liked us because we were just throwing off cash. And then the business took a turn. I also, Jonathan helped me actually, did launch the Domain Fest conference, sorry. And we ended up buying Snap Names, and we bought Moniker. I'm never really happy about those things, but we eventually sold controlling interest in a company to an investment group. Not happy about that, but made a little bit of money. And I have always fancied myself as a startup person. And then I got my education, which was the most expensive education I've ever had, trying to invest in startups and so forth, after leaving Oversee in 2008 or 9. And I haven't really been in the domain space actively since then. I did try to help Jeff Barron for a while. Everybody knows who he is. He's got a very interesting story. But for the most part, I've just kind of phased out of the space. I sold a few domains. I never really bought that many domains because I didn't want to be competing with my customers while I was at Domain Sponsor and Oversee. I just felt that was, kind of inappropriate because I had insight that they didn't have on a lot of stuff, and I didn't want to take it to my advantage. But so that's my background in the space. I hope that's succinct enough. But yeah, I've basically bought and sold millions and millions of dollars in domains.
I'll provide a little more color because I think you're underselling slightly. So Oversee was the domain industry way back when. Moniker was that they acquired was the domain investors registrar run by Monty. Any investor worth his salt was using Moniker as the registrar. And Domain Sponsor was the parking company. Snap Names was really the only game in town for drop catching. That's where everyone got their expired names was on Snap. and also OvrC had a massive portfolio. Wasn't it like a 7-figure? Wasn't it like
at one point we had more domains than anybody. I mean, I know for a fact that I remember the day we went north of 1 million in domains that we owned. We had mastered the process of tasting, which isn't even doable anymore. And we had some amazing software developers and coders, and we could figure out what domains were going to make money, and we were buying hundreds of thousands of domains a week and testing them and dropping them and so on and so forth. We focused on parking names. Then eventually we turned out and ended up acquiring a lot of our customers' portfolios. I think we spent, I want to say, $500 million or more on buying portfolios, something like that.
Yeah, so I mean, I really see as OvrC being kind of the forerunner to really this whole industry, because before that it was just individual investors, right? You know, there was traffic, but as a conference, but Domain Fest really kind of opened up that world. I think it seems that OvrC was really the first kind of big business.
Yeah, I think that's probably where I would end up having to try to describe it, is that we did, you know, the three of us, we really recognized where the domain industry was going from a variety of perspectives, and we tried to create a professional corporation that could succeed in multiple aspects of the industry, and we got successful. But yeah, but I mean, I remember meeting Rick Schwartz and a variety of other people who I personally thought are legends in the space, yourself included. Yeah, I mean, I don't really feel like we created anything. I just think we took advantage of it, and we helped it. I think we did help a lot of the people in the domain space make more money. That was, I think, our greatest accomplishment. I wish I had a nickel for every time somebody thanked me for helping them make money out of their domains, their parking, and so on and so forth. But that was pretty rewarding. I mean, a lot of people, I know a number of them who did quite well, and some of them are on this call. But at any rate, thank you for the acknowledgement. But it's an amazing space, and I'm still trying to do the startup thing again. So that's my real focus.
Well, thank you for sharing, and thank you for I'm one of those people that you helped make money in the domain space way back when. So thank you.
I was able to do that. Thank you. Thank you for the acknowledgement. Appreciate it.
Ron, one of the coolest things about you is your humility, man. I think you're really still underselling yourself, like Braden said. But I'm glad you're here, and it's cool to see you doing stuff in the startup space. Because I think a lot of folks look at their domain portfolios and what can they do with it. I think one of the areas that you don't give yourself enough praise for is you saw a lot of connective tissue between a lot of the opportunity space that exists in domains. And I think people are even now still capitalizing on those ideas, where the market matured to the point that they could be there.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're doing now in connecting domains to entrepreneurs and venture and angels and stuff, I think that's the holy grail of what a lot of people who buy domains are really looking for. Well, and so keep at it. I'm glad you're here.
Well, thank you. And to make a point, which I think is worth making, especially addressing that discussion. So first of all, thank you. And everybody has to know Jonathan's one of my best friends. He's a great guy, and I owe him a lot. That said, I think that early on, the greatest frustration I had at OvrC is we were doing some amazing things, but I was frustrated that we weren't able to come up with a solution that would help a domain owner take a domain property and actually do something more than a landing page. Something that could help facilitate the realization of the real value of some of these amazing assets you guys have. We have. I own bassguitar.com, and it points to my Facebook page. So what? But it's better than a kick in the ass with a hard boot, is the way I look at it. But lately, one of the things that I've been doing in the startup space is, anybody familiar with the no-code, low-code movement within startup? It's a very, you just do some basic searching for it. It's the new thing within startup because it's like it takes the concept of a lean startup and takes it to a much simpler level. Where I was listening to a podcast this morning of a woman in the UK. She's created 42 no-code startups and sold like 8 of them. And so if anybody is owning domains and is thinking about what we used to call building out, is that term still used? Building out a domain, developing it into an actual consumer property. low code is actually something to really look at because anyway, it's good.
Ron, do you own lowcodenocode.com?
I should I?
I was going to say, if you don't now, someone on this call probably does.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I've identified that I try to tell people about the domain spaces. The thing to really understand about a lot of people in domain spaces, they're incredible speculators, investment speculators, and each domain is an investment. And so, yeah, I just, what I was going to say, Jason, is I don't do speculation anymore. But if there's a name like Smelly Fart that I can reserve, then I'll definitely go for that. Like I have, my favorite domain is Alt Trump Names. So if you're a Trump fan, don't go there. But it's basically a listicle, which the list is actually powered by Airtable. So it's a no-code website. It just goes directly to an Airtable of names that people have. I've heard people use to, to describe, not describe it for the president. But my point is that, yeah, I don't do it anymore.
All right, Robert, didn't forget about you. You had your hand up before.
Oh yeah, I was just trying to get in on the small domain holder space and try to learn about what's going on. I've known Jonathan for forever, and I have actually presented at domain conferences, but not necessarily this side of the equation on the buying selling side.
So you're not new to domains, but you're a new domainer. Is that what you're trying to say, or?
Yes, let's put it that way.
And how's that? How long have you been like domaining for?
So I've just been collecting for a few years, just some good stuff. So I've less than 50, but I'm curious to see how the whole machine works and how I've been trying to stay for the auctions, but I always get cut off by other meetings. But today I definitely want to see how an auction works.
Yeah, well, I mean, the auctions here aren't really representative of true auctions because there's 45 people, right? So it's not it doesn't represent the true demand. You could actually get some good deals, but I mean, it's not really about that. Ooh, my computer's frozen.
So it'll be substantially different than like the NamesCon auction that's going on right now.
Well, I'm talking about more like compared to like the typical GoDaddy auctions and stuff like that. I mean, you'll find deals here. It's a whole wholesale sort of area. But have you listed your domains yet for?
No, not yet.
No. Okay, so you're really just beginning. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that makes sense. You've been making your sales. All right. Anybody else here not making any sales yet in 2020? That have actually tried? I guess that's a good sign.
Yeah, but it's very interesting to talk about.
Eh? Oh, sorry, I didn't hear that. All right, anyhow. The next question I had for people, curious.
Yeah, I'll give a shout out to Ron Sheridan since we went through there. It was always great to see Ron at the conferences because I used to walk around saying I sell non-revenue domain names because I was one of the few people trying to do this crazy thing called buying and selling domain names that didn't have any traffic revenue. And it was great that Ron and I could get along and we'd see each other at conferences and we'd talk about stuff. We had absolutely really nothing in common with our businesses. When he was domain sponsor, just this huge company doing parking, and it would be like, yeah, just don't really have the traffic name at all. You know what I mean? And then he'd be like, well, what do you have? I'd be like, yeah, we just really don't. I mean, until domain sponsor grew and did everything, but it was always good. And Ron, what happened to that video startup that you pointed me to, like in 11 or 12, where we could do basically what we're doing right here with Zoom? Ron invited me to be part of a beta for this chat room that would have 4 people talking to each other on video.
I'm trying to remember exactly which one.
It was like Quick Chat or Snap Quick.
Man,
or...
dude, there's a graveyard of startups in
okay, all right. Anyway,
I'm trying to remember the name of it because I've been involved in several. I know there was one.
Basically, Zoom before Zoom, like in 2011. So I always think of you when I think of that. So great to have you on. Good to see you.
It was like a .in domain.
Now I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
APPEAR. That was I was involved with them for a while. Anyway, now I'm gonna have to figure out what it is. But in 11, I was doing a project called Pixt, P-I-X-T. I think you actually gave me some advice on pricing that recently. But that's my passion project that I'd really like to do now, but I haven't done anything about it yet. But anyway, thanks.
Well, it was 2015. It was Blab.
Blab, yeah, okay, that's what I thought. I was going to ring it up. I couldn't remember the name of it. Yeah, so Sean Puri, who was one of the guys at Bebo, and it was a funny story about that company, but yeah, Blab. And Blab really rocketed fast, but they just got their ass kicked by more nimble, and more focused players. It kind of became irrelevant, but still a lot of interesting stuff came out of it. I like the platform because I like the socialized engagement. I think they, again, they tried to come back, but nothing happened.
Hey, I searched my email for your address, Ron. Does anyone know how long Gmail keeps your email?
It keeps it forever until you delete it.
Is it forever?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the big benefits of Gmail is that they have this.
It's in the cloud.
Yeah, it's perpetual in the cloud, so you just do a search.
I go back to years like 2009 and 2010. I only have like sporadic messages, and I thought I was using it. Anyway, all right, thanks. Didn't mean to get you off topic. All right. Sorry.
No, that's before the cloud, so that's a good point.
Yeah. All right.
Hey, Ron, before we move on, didn't you have some kind of like a toilet paper calculator website also? What was that? Can you put the URL in the chat?
Oh, my wife would love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I just never know whether you're kidding or serious, Jonathan. Yeah.
Nobody does.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So another question I had for everybody was if you've ever sold a portfolio of domains, and if so, what sort of size it was.
That one's easy.
That's Teamy. Jason.
Next question is, have we ever purchased a portfolio of names?
Yeah, actually it's there. If we get to it. Yeah. All right. So it seems that a few of you have. A couple of you for 10,000 and more. Share this. There you go. So not too many people answered, but so I was just wondering, for those of you who have sold, large numbers of domains before, if you found it was worthwhile or not. Like, did you end up reinvesting that? Like, was it dead stock, or was it just to make money? Or the floor is yours to whoever answered that.
Who sold over 10,000 names in one portfolio?
Two people said they've sold more than 10,000 domains. One said more than 1,000. Two others said more than 100.
Well, Ron, probably you, right, with Oversea.
Yeah, I sold multiple times. We sold portfolios north of 10,000. And the distinguishing factor with Oversea portfolios, for the most part, is when we bought domains, we were buying parking domains. But when we started buying portfolios, which we did ultimately do, we ended up with a lot of premium domains. And we went through and basically sold everything. Ultimately everything got sold.
Does it count if you sold them for clients?
Sure. I mean, I'm just curious because, I mean, like, I've got all kinds of projects coming up. As most of you know, I lost my regular world job a few weeks ago, and I got other projects coming up. And I'm just, I've realized I got a lot of domains, and I was considering maybe doing some a portfolio sort of sell, not my entire portfolio, but maybe 1,000 domains or 100 domains or 500 domains, whatever made sense. But I mean, part of that would be depending what kind of feedback I get, what kind of seeing how it went and what sort of strategies people used and where they sold it. And so have you sold?
We've represented a bunch of clients that have sold multiple large portfolios. That large and larger. Every single time they're either selling it for the purpose of gathering cash, because they're A, getting out of the business, B, because they're want the cash in order to invest in something else. I have one guy who sold, I think, 3,500 domain names, and he used all that to buy a single domain name. Turned out to be a really good deal. I have a lot of people who've been trying to sell, but they, you know, among other people to GoDaddy, but GoDaddy's offers are really, really bottom dollar, especially these days. And they either don't accept them, or if they do, it's just because there is really no reason. They just really need the cash at the time. Most of the time we see it that if they're selling it, they could sell the domain names for 7 or 8 times as much if they're selling one at a time, which of course takes lots of patience. I have one client that's been selling office domain names one at a time, God, for the past 10, 15 years. And you know, he does $400,000 or $500,000 a year in sales. And whereas he got an offer for all of his domain names about 3 years ago from GoDaddy, that would have been $2 million. And he turned them down and told them they were ridiculous. And he was right. Just recently, he sold one of the domain names for $500,000. So unless you're selling a really large amount and you really need the cash, it usually doesn't seem to make an awful lot of sense.
Yeah. Well, actually, well, but if you said it's a seventh of the value, that's actually not even that bad, considering that, you know, a lot of wholesale names are even less than that, you know.
It's always a balancing act.
But yeah, if you're talking about, you know, 6-figure domains in there, then that changes it a lot. That, yeah, the math is very.
We had one client that put out a portfolio to sell, and then the buyer came back and they said, well, we like these 9 of these domain names. Can we buy them? And we wanted to sort of cherry pick them. And they made an offer that based upon just divided the number of domain names. And they were like, yeah, no chance in hell.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not speaking from experience of selling a portfolio, but like if you're going to sell a portfolio on NamePros, I'm speaking from a sales perspective. If you're selling a portfolio on NamePros, I mean, you're going to get wholesale prices, but if you're selling a domain name to a MarkMonitor representative from a company who wants to acquire them, like let's just say Amazon, that's a whole different ballgame also.
Yeah.
So I think the market for selling a portfolio is priced differently than we think from the buyer's point of view. We think that you just look at every domain and add them all up. But I think in many cases, the bulk buyer is saying, is what you do as a domain investor, what does it produce a year of sales? And then what are your renewals? And then what is that income stream? And assuming that you're selling kind of a ratable share of the quality of your portfolio, you know, each year, that'll be repeatable, you know, in some ways. And so it's different maybe than just saying, well, I took all my $1,000 domains and put them in one basket, and my 2,000s and my 5,000s and my 10,000s, I add them all up, and that's what I want. They seem to, if you're entertaining those discussions, the type of questions you may get are, what are your last 2 years' sales? And then they'll be taking that and trying to decide what maybe multiple of that number to get. It may be different. This was maybe 4 or 5 years ago, but those type of questions may come at you that are different than just, let's look at each name and add up the individual appraised value of each name.
Okay. Yeah, I'll put the other question here for the inverse, but it's probably going to be similar, I guess. If you bought one. So I heard an old Sherpa sometimes that, you know, I think it was Tess when she worked for GoDaddy, like she's saying to people coming to industry like with $100,000 to start buying domains. I'm like, who are these people? How come we never see them? You know what I mean? I'm just curious about that, you know, where all those big players are. So it's fairly similar results here.
Anybody remember Internet REIT?
Hmm?
Yep.
Mark Ostrovsky. That was then Marchex occurred first. I remember Marchex came to our offices in downtown LA and wanted to pick our brains, and I told him to go look at two companies, 7Search and somebody else, and ended up buying both companies. You know, and they went on a tear and ended up buying a lot of domains, and you know, but they were companies that I looked at as taking a professional investor mindset, and which is not to say that domain investors are not professional investors, but they were, you know, more Wall Street style investment bank investing and apply it to the domain space.
There's a lot of those guys out there now, but they fly way under the radar.
Yeah.
And they're doing more of buying. We're seeing a lot of built out websites, fully functional websites with income going through escrow, a lot more now than I've ever seen before. So that's sort of the way of things. And they're funded by large investment groups. They're spending stupid amounts of money.
All right. Well, I guess we'll move on. Kind of curious now, has anybody sold anything in the last week or so? Usually you get a few people who sold some stuff. Anything interesting?
Let's see. I sold justproposed.com. You might have saw on Twitter.
Just proposed?
Just proposed.
Wow.
Did she say yes?
They did.
Awesome.
The money's in the bank.
Yeah, that's why he sold the domain. He doesn't need it anymore.
I liked how Squad Help was joking around. You rarely see, guys like that getting in there and making jokes on a Friday. That was good, man.
Yeah. So that name was only listed for like 3 days. So I don't know if it's beginner's luck with Squad Help or their marketplace actually sold it. So
that was the
I'm happy so far.
That was the first domain you put up there?
No, it's just like I put up maybe like I submitted like 50 or so, and then slowly but surely they get approved. But that one was only up for like 3 days.
Wow.
And then it sold.
Wow. Is the price public or?
I think it was like 4,400, like 43.99.
Oh, that's your, that's a good deal. How was the transfer experience with them in Wetwell?
It was pretty easy. I just go into like a little chat bot, do them on the auth code. And then I think almost the same. It all happened on the same day. So pretty easy.
That's good. I saw a couple. I remember who it was. Somebody recently mentioned they had a couple of cancellations.
Yeah, that was Josh Reason.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, it didn't seem like he was too happy about that. I don't know.
Awesome.
I sold the name last week.
Who would be?
What'd you sell?
I sold interlock.com.
Oh, that I've heard that name before.
Wow.
Is that,
we discussed it a while ago.
Give us the details.
Yeah.
That was a while back. You were talking about it here, right, Braden?
Yeah, I went back and forth with this guy.
Same guy?
Same guy. I was asking 350, and he was, I don't remember where he started, but he ended up at 100, and he wouldn't go above 100, and I kept pushing him. I finally took the 100. And he closed Friday.
Was that
I
the billionaire guy?
What?
Was that the billionaire guy?
No, that's a different name.
Not that one. Okay.
Well, one, Braden, congratulations. I mean,
congratulations.
A sale is a sale and it's good. But can you give us a little more insight into what you were saying by pushing him? He said he wouldn't go above 100. What did you come back with? Like, why won't you? Like, what did you say?
I'm trying to remember. I mean, I talked about the value and the difficulty in getting a oneword.com, especially a category killer. This is Ignition Interlock company, and Interlock is the best name. There's Ignition Interlock. It's kind of the industry, and Interlock is what people call it. So it's really the category killer. And he just didn't see the value. I mean, I think that maybe at 100 he can kind of squeeze it through as a marketing expense. It's a big company. And he claims he couldn't get approval for anything more than that. I mean, I tried 125, nothing. I blew him off a few times, but he wouldn't come back with any more money.
Did he just keep responding like 100, that's it, 100, that's it, 100, that's it? Or did he give you?
And he even said, I can try to get approval for it, but I can't get approval for anything more than that. And he kept saying, like, I can't even promise that. But I assume that if he's putting it out there, he could promise it. Ultimately I decided to take it because, I know the industry well enough, and there's really only a few buyers. And I had like a $45,000 offer from another buyer, and another one said they weren't interested. And it's particularly now that a lot of people aren't driving. So ignition interlock are car breathalyzers. So if you get a DUI or DWI, you have to install it in your car. And so that whole business is down right now. So it's that much harder to squeeze money out of these companies. So, $100 grand, I make a profit. It wasn't what I was looking for, but I haven't even renewed it. I've had it less than a year, so I took it.
Nice.
Congrats.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I've got a few others in the pipeline, so can't report those yet, but soon.
It's fun when they kind of you see a few of them falling into place.
But hey, that's a great point, Braden. The pipeline is full. And if you want to make consistent living or, quit your day job, your pipeline needs to be full. And you need to have the offers coming in. And if they're not just coming in organically, you got to get it that way somehow. But the pipeline is full. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, there's plenty of people that I'm negotiating with. Some are way too low. Some are just too low. Some are at a place that's, reasonable. Just trying to push them a little bit more. The one, Frank, you mentioned, the billionaire guy, he decided to go through a branding agency to give him a PowerPoint presentation and screw everything up, but they didn't. And they went with one of my names. And then, then it went to the lawyers to do a trademark search. And so, that's where it is with the lawyers, but they think it'll be okay. But he put together a list of 8 random one-word.coms that they liked. Turns out 3 of them were mine, which is totally coincidental because I didn't pitch him any other names. And then they narrowed it down to 4 names. 2 of them were mine. And then ultimately, I think I made the cut. I think the first and second choice were my names.
Shall the odds be ever in your favor?
Yeah. It's just luck, just totally coincidental. He called me and he's like, I submitted inquiries for some domain names, and 3 of them came back as yours. He's like, you must own a lot of names.
Were those names, a question, were those names that you owned as protection for that original name, or just completely different names?
No. I'll tell you the names. Recognize.com, configure.com, and continue.com. Just random names. There's no association, between those. So, he's got, it's configure.com.
Random smoking hot domain names, we should say. Random smoking hot domain names.
Braden, get out the guns now.
There is one thing they had in common. They were smoking hot. Okay, so. Okay.
Thanks, Paige. Hey, Paige, how is it that your camera is on the ceiling? Can you explain that?
We've already covered that.
Why are we looking down at you, buddy?
Someone needs to invent like something that'll put it in the middle of my big screen TV, so.
No, and that's what I hate too. My laptop has it on the bottom of my screen. So everyone's always looking at my nose.
Hey, Braden, as a lawyer, do you ever be like,
choice.
Braden? Braden.
Who's talking? What?
It's Bar. I wanted to ask, as a lawyer, do you ever throw in the idea, be like, hey, I'll do the trademark search for you for free to sweeten the deal?
I don't, because number one, I'm not a lawyer.
You're not a lawyer?
I'm not.
I thought you were going to send it over to logo.com.
And they could say that you'd be biased.
But he plays one on our socials.
Wait, are you a non-attorney spokesperson?
Right.
Hey,
Bar, everybody thinks I am. I've had a legal marketing company for 16 years, and my wife is a lawyer, and we have a law firm. So.
Oh, today I learned.
Yeah, everybody thinks that. No, I've never offered to do. I wouldn't want to do a trademark search because, even though I could, one of my businesses, we do all our own trademark searches in-house, but, let them do it, because you don't want them to come back and, you missed something and they blame you for it. And so I'd rather not be part of it.
Yeah, and Braden does a lot of, or mostly inbound offers. So when they're coming to him at those price points, let them do all their research and let him just, shoot his guns at them.
Yeah. These are all inbound. By the way, not that this is the right strategy for everybody. I'm super lazy. I'm kind of hands off. It's I have several thousand names. I'm pretty active in this, but it's still kind of a side hustle for me because I have other businesses. I see them as appreciating assets, so I just wait. But if you have a small portfolio and you need the income, you should be outbounding. It really is a better strategy if you're trying to turn some cash. And I might give my name to some brokers at some point. I haven't at this point. Jason knows because he's always asking me. But listen, you got to hustle. Good on Jason for asking. If you don't ask, the answer is always no.
That's right.
But listen, if you have smaller names, you need to be outbounding. Got to hustle.
If there was only someone on the social that could do a trademark search.
Is there any lawyers around here?
One or two lying around.
Steven Lieberman.
Everyone go to Wiley Fish. You could do your own search to start out with.
I just wanted to say, hey, Steve, from across the country. So.
Hey, Paige. Yeah, I was thinking that you was from up above so that you could, seem even larger than you actually are.
Larger than life.
Well, at one point we were really seriously talking about trying to license parts of Paige's back for advertising at the shows.
That's true.
Ouch.
I think it would have been possibly the best advertising method one ever came across.
That's true. That is also true.
Well, what rates how much was it gonna cost?
I was gonna pay him in domain names. I've got
Yeah,
lots of Oregon info.
There'd be no money involved. It was I think it was a particularly loud green shirt that I wore that made me unmistakable, and then that's when it became you could put like NASCAR advertising on your sleeves or something at the domain show. So maybe one day.
Yeah, no, I think we'll eventually have little advertisements plopping in front of our faces in Zoom.
I could have a hat on at the domain social that had, something.
That's what AR is for.
Well, I'm waiting for the 3D screen so we can actually all sort of walk around each other inside the
Well,
Zoom.
if you had Barcelona, if you had Bayern Munich, they won 8-2. 8-2.
All right. So anybody else sell anything this week?
Paige, that was cruel, man. I was going to watch this after.
So,
Stay on topic.
My wife hasn't seen it.
Rant on that? Can I go on a rant on that?
No, my wife hasn't seen it yet, so I'll bet against her. Maybe I'll get extra slice of pie or something with dessert.
Hey, I am not a fan of this watching sports online on websites that are jerky and everything. You know what? The remote control worked pretty darn good on network TV to watch sports. And telling me it's available online, I'm not a fan.
All right.
Coming from a domainer.
Yeah, so we'll move on to the auctions. Get a little bit early today so we don't drag it on like the last few times. So to submit your domains, send them to info@thedomainsocial.com. Title, email, domains for auction. Deadline is the Wednesday before, okay? So people asking me on the day of, is it too late? Yes, it's too late. The day before, is it too late? Yes, it's too late. You must be present at the auction. When you send me the domain name, send me the current registrar, expiration date, and your reserve if you have one. State if the domain also is under a transfer lock. So I'll include push only. Include the renewal cost if it's not .com, .org, .net. Priority given to no reserve and realistic wholesale reserves.
I'll ever mention again. Well played. Well played.
I think
you know
of the
what?
logistics piece of this. Like, how could we manage
Yeah, I
that
think
in a
what
chat?
we'll do is we'll figure it out this week, and then maybe not. But if anybody has, I think it's just buy requests, right? So if anybody has any buy requests, send them to me this week, and we could do both. If I have enough of one or the other, I'll try and figure out what will work.
If you have any exact match fishing hacks domains, I'll buy them for $100.
All right.
Just for the halibut?
No, just in case Steve Anderson's here.
I'm going to go register fishinghacks.guru and sell it to Paige for $100.
.horse.
Right.
.horse, yeah.
That horse is probably the best silly example. Everyone uses .horse. I think actually .horse is doing fairly well.
It's great. It's great. It's pounding ahead.
It's got like zero brand value, but it has a lot of irony value.
But if you're in the horse business, like people love their horses, I think it has a decent number of registrations. .rich and .ceo are two of the dumbest ever.
It's probably as good as both of these.
How is .buzz?
.red and .black. .green, .pink.
.buzz.
Because that was like, a lot of people talked about that for a while, like for bees and stuff like that. And then.
But they make great coasters.
What?
I was saying .black, .red. They make great coasters.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not a coaster. That's a koozie.
Koozie. Sorry, I'm from the East Coast. I'm not really.
How many beers are you in right now?
Stubby cooler. Stubby holder.
Stubby holder. I like that.
Isn't it, Mike?
That's so much more badass. Stubby holder.
That's for the Aussies on the call.
Stubbyholders.com.
All right, so I had a couple people ask me if we could do reviews, and we haven't done that in a while. So I lost one. Ellie, I think you won one, right? Ellie, you there?
PillarBrand.com.
Yeah, so you want to type it out in the chat? Actually, here, I'll copy paste it. There it is. So yeah, we haven't done reviews in a while. Actually, one thing I wanted to do. So thanks for reminding me. What's the premise of that domain? Like, what made you buy it?
Actually, hand registered because the plural Pillar Brands was being used by some Christian organization for a while. It's been a while to be using it. And it looks like they are a marketing agency. I said, well, they should have bought the brand, not the brands. But so I just caught it. PillarBrand.com.
Okay. Thoughts, anyone?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like the premise of buying something similar to somebody else, but I do like this if I ignored that piece of it, Pillar Brand, I mean, you think of like the base, the bedrock, some kind of like a core structural framework, and then, you know, having a brand on that. Like, it is evocative of some of that direction.
When I actually bought it, I mean, I did my research. That's why I knew it was being used. But I bought it because, one, it was like previously registered. And secondly, I said, you know what? If I ever wanted to start a branding agency, I just like it pillar, like foundation, strong. And the word brand, I always like singular than plural. So I just like pillarbrand.com. So pillarbrand.com.
For me, if you're doing branding, I always think that it was the ending word for brand, it would be brands, because otherwise people are going to think it's just one brand that you're going for, right?
One entity.
Yeah. So, for me, it's awkward, but I don't know. What do you guys, rest of you think?
The plural in this case is better, which is typically not the case. Usually singular is better, but brands is better than brand, because if it was pillar brand, it would just be pillar. But someone that has pillar brands might be interested in pillar brand just from a defensive perspective, just to have both versions. But I don't know that it's worth a ton. But if it's a hand reg, you know, and you can sell it to them for $100 or $150, that might be worthwhile.
That's true. You're right. I mean, like you're right. If it's just pillar.com, it makes more sense than pillarbrand.com. So, but I guess when you say pillar brand, it's almost like you explaining something, to people. And then if it become brands, then it's more than one. But if it's just pillar brand, it's like one item instead of like multiple.
Yeah, but I think like if you're going to be a branding agency, then you'd want people to think that you can offer them a choice. I would think, because pillar brand would be like you're talking about yourself, but people don't refer themselves as like brand. It'd be like,
yeah. Or else you'd want it to already be established, like maybe a word like big tent or something that has meaning beyond a tent. It
Yes.
talks about big tent marketing or big tent something. So if you search for it in quotes and you saw that the newest thing in branding strategy is to have a pillar brand, or something like that, you'd want it already to be established as that, as opposed to maybe having to take that reach that somebody would want to take it and go to it.
My marketing company is Legal Brand Marketing, singular, and but it's a 3-word, and so I think it works as a singular in the middle. But when people shorten it, oftentimes, it's been 16 years, so I've heard every iteration, people say Legal Brands plural. So that's what they default to.
So Braden, do you own the variations? Do you own the plural on the short side? Do you own the plural on the long side? And if someone pitched you that, what would you say? Or why haven't you bought it?
Let me search. I don't even, that's a good question. I don't know if I have it or not.
Because I just had a client that I brokered her name for, and they were rebranding, and they're in New York City. They're a dry cleaning company. They also do uniforms. Their biggest competitors are Cintas, and I told them they should also own this, and they got it for under $5K. And he was like, listen, man, like, it sounds like you're selling me. I'm not trying to sell. I'm not trying to sell you. I'm talking about brand protection. You're rebranding. And I think that these are smart moves and these are smart domains that you should own. And I get where he's coming from. Like, he just got his brand. So that's why I want to ask you, as a domainer and an owner of a conglomerate.
So Legal Brand is some other company that's not in English, it's French. And Legal Brands, the answer is no, I don't have them. Legal Brands doesn't resolve. But
about Legal Brands Marketing.
No, but I don't care. You can go on forever. I do have a few variations. I have legalbrandmarketing.co and .info. But the only reason why those are used, why we have those, is they were used for projects. So they're really just throwaway names.
So Braden, if I just helped you secure Legal Brand, and I told you should own the variations, would you say I don't care? That doesn't make sense to you? You don't like it?
Yeah, I would say no. For me, but it's because this is probably a good thing to discuss. It depends on the business, right? So we are not really a consumer-focused brand. We do have clients in the legal community, and for the most part, we're fairly well known after all this time. But to get different variations of that name is not really useful for me.
Because you're B2B, high level, not B2C. Right. But when consumers are typing in, like, are you dry cleaning, or are you dry cleaners?
So that's the thing. If you're B2C, you need, and it's funny, I've had this conversation. There's this guy that's interested in one of my names, Curable.com. And this guy's company is called Curable, and he uses CurableHealth.com. And I had a conversation. I think I wanted 75,000. He was at 40,000, and he said, I can't pay more at this point because we might switch to just B2B. If we stay B2C, then I'll upgrade. But right now, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So it's exactly the point, and that was a real live potential buyer.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to feed him. Like worst case scenario, he was like, oh, I checked it out. Like mybranduniforms.com was available a couple of days ago, and I was like, really? Because I already reached out to the buyers, like in preparation of our talk, and I was like, what if it was what if it was Cintas? What if they bought it and just forwarded it to their website? And I gave him the hardest sell possible. Like, you just bought this brand that I helped you secure. What if your biggest competitor that's so much larger already bought this because they have people that do this and are now just forwarding it to their website, and your customers don't know the difference?
Right. Well, yeah. So from a defensive standpoint, I mean, it's a good pitch on your part.
Dry cleaners have taken a big hit past 3 or 4 months.
What's that?
Dry cleaners have taken a big hit in the past 3 or 4 months.
Oh yeah, but I mean, he just spent money to rebrand. So
yeah.
I'm telling him, listen, I'm giving you free consultation advice. Like, I should be charging you for this, but like,
you should have taken
a domain from me. Like, not from me, but like, I helped you acquire a name, and now you're rebranding. This is your brand. Now protect your brand. And I don't even know if these names are available at HandReg, but like, how do you not get like your brand cleaners or dry cleaners?
Yeah.
If you do dry cleaning and uniforms,
and
you should own that.
And you should have as locals as well, as geos.
Yeah, and he's already forwarding the name to their website, which is great.
Yeah. I was in the dry cleaning business for 35 years. Sold it 2 years ago, and just in time. Because most of these guys are off 80%.
Yeah, but you can't sell something. You can't sell someone something they don't want. You could present the best. Like, yeah. I appreciate you bringing that up.
Wait. Are you saying that in America today, people don't try to sell people things that they don't want?
Oh, no, they do. They try very hard.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, like, this is a client I have. He's the happiest guy in the world right now. But I was trying to say to him, like, you just rebranded. This is his father's business. They have 500 employees. You know, Cintas has 5,000, and you just rebranded because you have the vision. Being younger, he was a friend of mine in college, but now your vision's only gone this far. And he was like, listen, it sounds like you're trying to sell me.
But were these premiums, Jason, were these premiums that you were going to have to go buy for him, or just hand registers?
Well, the two main ones that I saw that were in line with his brand, apparently one was available, but I had already reached out to, they were both taken when I looked them up. When he was thinking about rebranding, I guess one was available, maybe he didn't think of the other, but that's what I was trying to tell him. He was like, well,
I think it's just too soon. I think it's just too soon.
Well, I waited.
Okay.
I waited a week.
Oh, well, it's still too soon.
Well, but he said to me, so it's a great point. He said to me, when my clients say that I went to this website and I couldn't find you, then maybe I'll consider it. And I didn't even respond, but because I already gave him my pitch, and I gave him a great pitch, and I went into further detail. But that's already too late at that point, and we know that. And I'm just trying to help him secure his brand because, like Chris Zeicher likes to say, you know, your domain is your brand, which equals your brand equity. So, and he has a major company, 500 employees.
It's a big business.
I just think it's too soon.
Yeah, be careful when you're trying to help. I'll give you an example of me helping and getting screwed. I sold Parsley.com for 400 grand on a payment plan. He was making payments. He paid 40,000 of it. And this is literally like, I think a month ago, maybe a month ago. Parsley.app, I happened to come across. It was available for like $1,200. And I said, hey, you might want to grab this because, you know, you have an app and from a defensive standpoint, it's worth the $1,200. And he replies, you know, great find, thank you very much. And then the next payment doesn't show up and he sends me an email and he says, you know, we decided that we're just going to use Parsley.app instead of sending you another $360,000 for Parsley.com.
Well, that's why I'm glad we're having this conversation because that's kind of what I'm saying, but at scale. So like you could be on a small level, but then at the same time, how much does that eat into your pocket? And Braden, thank you for sharing that.
That will accrue to your
Braden,
benefit.
do you have Parsley back?
Because you got it back.
Braden, do you have Parsley back?
Yeah, I mean, it was always in my control. I was forwarding it to his, he had set up emails and it was resolving to his website. But, you know, obviously.
He lost that on another 350 plus K.
Hey, we run out of topics, or we got time for a new topic?
You have one? Let's go.
Did you speak to a good lawyer about that?
Anyone in the SEO business watch what happened? What was it, Wednesday or something, where you had this, everyone woke up and Google redid their algorithm. We're all screwed. I've got to redo all my sites or something. And then it was like, never mind. You know?
Chicken Little.
That scared a lot of people.
I think we're all reading the same domain blog, but does anyone have any experience outside of that with their own sites? Because I didn't have any experience with that.
No. If you see anything, you just, rule of thumb is don't touch them for a while, if that's the case, but I didn't see any problems.
EK,
what you got?
If you're doing real SEO, real legitimate SEO, almost none of these updates will ever affect you. If you're doing gimmicks and all this other stuff, you'll almost always be affected. Anyone who does legitimate SEO, nothing has ever affected us since the beginning. If you're doing legitimate SEO, you're always looking at fundamentals, you're always tweaking, and none of this matters. If you're trying to outsmart Google, and people have said this since the beginning, if you're trying to outsmart Google engineers, you will always fail. And I say this, you know, if you search the term games, we're either number 1 or number 2 or number 3 in the world. Math games, number 1. Like the list of SEO that we've done is extensive. All these updates come and go and they only make it better. They're only to your benefit. If you're speaking to someone who's concerned, they're doing wonky stuff anyway, that's a red flag because they're worried about stuff that, you know, in our circles that do legitimate sustainable SEO, we're just trying to show Google the best product and make it as efficient and easy for them to find. And if you do that, none of this stuff matters. So I see headlines like that, and it literally, it happens every time there's an update. It's like, oh, mobile's gonna kill everyone. You know, and then it's like, well, wait a minute, we should do a mobile website because a lot of viewers are coming to our site on mobile. So these updates are meant to drive a little bit of your product development, and that's a good thing. If you're looking at them from being panicked, you're just not even looking at your product the right way. You're missing the whole purpose of why Google's putting this stuff out. So they're mostly opportunities. If you're panicked, you know, you're doing something wrong. And that's okay. Maybe you're panicked because you are looking at SEO in a gimmicky way, and a lot of people do it that way, which is fine. But if you're looking for sustainable SEO over time and years and being able to maybe even bundle that in as part of like, hey, I'm selling this site because we have SEO. Here's our SEO history over the existence of our product. Then that's good. If you're trying to get something on Flipper and just saying, hey, look at this little spike, you know, it should scare you, and hopefully it does, because it usually ends up scamming some innocent person where someone's able to get a bump in SEO and then, you know, it goes down the second someone buys something. So yeah, these things are not to be worried about. Obviously, Google, when it comes to SEO, the bigger thing that everyone should be worried about is the amount of traffic they send out. Now that's the measure that when Google does an update, it's like how much less are they sending everyone Now that's what everyone should be worried about, not the individual portions, because you can't control those. But if Google takes it where they're sending, 46% of searches results in clicks, and that drops to 30%, that's when all of us should be, on Twitter and making a big stink and that kind of stuff. And Google, those are the updates that Google has continued to bring down over time through snippets, through grabbing stuff off people's sites, all that kind of stuff. That's the biggest problem, because that hits everyone. So
great advice.
And I hear what you're saying. I was saying that this one was just literally a mistake. So you had all these people reacting like it was an update, like, oh my gosh, I've gone from number 1 to number 19. I'm not even on the 3rd page. Oh, it must have been, and but there wasn't any logic behind it. It was just an error. But because they were thinking it was a ranking update or something, they just moved at hyper speed to try to, see what it was and game the new system. Maybe
Google doesn't really bring out, when Google brings out a system, it's always testing stuff. There's multiple tests going on all the time. So when people say like this is released, it's never released. It's announced. And that's a big difference between something that's announced and something that's released. Right now, the next 10 things that they're going to announce are being tested, and they're in some stage of release. So you'll never, in cases where there's these glitches that can happen, it can happen. You can have Facebook that has outages, right? It's very rare, but it happens. But nothing gets out there that is super dramatic, that isn't hasn't been tested very, very thoroughly with incremental groups, with tiny cohorts over time across verticals. I mean, it just doesn't happen that way. And that's why your results are never the same. You go to a different location, different browser, different time of day, you'll see different parts of your site in the search. It's constantly ongoing. So yeah, keep in mind when people say this is released, it's not released, it's only announced. The release has been tested months and weeks. And the bigger the change, the longer it's in testing, and most of these still are fundamental stuff. Most of these are still coming down to the fundamentals where if you don't know SEO, focus on page speed, load times, all the basic tools that Google uses will still get you better than 90% of the competitors on the global internet space. And then if you can pass that, then you can focus on the last 10% where you're competing with, the professionals in the world. But most people don't even need to get to that route. The 80%, there's just so much in there that you can do. And when you're doing that, you're also fixing your product anyway. You're making your site load faster. You're making your content more readable. You're making a responsive website. That's all stuff that you're doing for product. The byproduct is you just get benefit of SEO eventually. So,
thanks.
Totally agree with what BK said.
Almost like Bill knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
He does. It's a long-term game with regards to SEO. You've got to build it. You've got to, plant the seed, let it grow. It's, a year, 2 years, sometimes a 3-year plan to get your site to number 1 if you're aiming for, top keywords and stuff like that. At the end of the day, it's aiming for the customer base that you're looking for. And when you're doing 100 sites or 200 sites, you've got to put the dedication and everything into it to get it going the right way. You've got to get the social media accounts, because those are factors. You've got to, retweet, Google Plus, Google. You've got to do everything that you do in one website with full commitment. You've got to do it to other ones to build all your sites out, and you get the traffic. It's not just about building a 3-page website or a 5-page website. You've got to build it out to its total capacity to get that traffic, and that's what it's all about: is building the traffic, building visitors.
Well, Google doesn't care about, when you think of the internet is so massive, Google only wants what are the best, most relevant, most passionate results for every single thing. So if you're a website about Chihuahuas, it wants to know the person who lives, breathes, dies chihuahuas. It doesn't need 1-page, 2-page websites. Just think of yourself from the perspective of Google. Does it need that clutter, or does it want to filter out the absolute best to match that with a person? And when you do that, you realize you will always be at odds with Google, because everything that you name, it's like my Google Plus, my this, my that, that doesn't get any better information to the user. Those are just signals that your website is good. So Google is always going to filter in, are those signals authentic signals of a quality website? And if they're not, and Google Plus is not a high quality signal of a good website anymore, so everyone who invested in Google Plus just got killed because it was a waste and it didn't mean anything anyway.
Right, but BK, so Google does this and they invest so much money in the best minds and all that money because, let's go real high level here, they want you to stay on Google. And that's why the captchas and staying on and getting your info without even clicking through to a web page has increased. I mean, their business is Google. And BK forgot to tell you, you could get his course at bk.xyz.com on Google and SEO. No, I'm just kidding. Oh. But I was just making a joke. But that's Google's model, right? They want to keep you on Google, like we.
Yeah, but that's different. So that is true, and that's what I was saying. How the biggest changes are basically kind of like against everyone, where they're giving out less clicks. Now, if you're talking about your individual SEO and search engine results, that's different. Those are like almost two different concepts. So when a release comes out, what I say is judge the release by, is it actually sending out traffic, or has that been reduced for everyone? Now, if you're talking about individual SEO, that's different, where I was talking about the different signals like Google Plus and all this other stuff that they're just gimmicks. You know, if basically when people went out and were trying to buy Google Plus numbers, you can look in your analytics and see if a Google Plus viewer comes to your site and spends 2 seconds on it, you actually did yourself a detriment. You reduced all the other core metrics on your website. And for sure, Google can put those two together and see all the references coming from this source are terrible, they're a waste, filter them out. And then everyone was going and trying to buy this other traffic to get other indicators that were false to their website. Not knowing or not really understanding that it's very easy to measure if that reference source is authentic and matches the regular traffic pattern of your site. An authentic source will be someone that comes to your site and spends even more time than the average untargeted user. So that's how far off most people are when they're looking at these different sources of traffic. And that's why it's just a waste. It's just vanity metrics, and those are the easiest to exclude because they have different attributes than real metrics.
DK, that's so outside most of our realms, and thank you for saying that, for bringing that knowledge. Because a lot of us are just domain investors, but like, thank you for that, because like when you do want to grow your site, and Tommy, I'm sorry to cut you off, but like that's such good knowledge. Like you want to measure, like whenever you have a site, and Michael could probably chime in and a bunch of you others could probably chime in, but like when you do have a developed site, you're tracking your traffic obviously through Google Analytics, which Google owns. And you're seeing if they're coming from social media, time on page, how much is coming from organic, and how much time on page there. And they'll only continue to rank you up higher and higher and higher based on those metrics that they produce, that they provide from their platform.